What's good? It's the one and only MVP, and I'm here doing Room Service Diaries. Luke and Brian, I actually met them, I believe, in Vegas. You know, honestly, I didn't know who it was gonna be. When I saw them just now, I was like, oh man, cool, it's gonna be you guys. Love the guys, love the energy. I was raised on, like, if you make one mistake in school, and a mistake could just be wearing the wrong shoes, and you're getting ripped the whole day.
All right, here we go. We are joined by one of the most unique MMA fighters, really in the world, certainly in the welterweight division. He's got a big fight coming up, which just got announced today. We were bouncing through London, BC. We can't stop in London without talking to one of London's finest. MVP, Michael Venom Page. How are you, sir?
I'm good, man. A pleasure to be here. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, we're in your neighborhood. Yeah. Not really, but more or less, right?
Yeah. Definitely, like I said, this London is small. So as much as it takes ages to get across London in general is small. So yeah, I go every year.
Do you like London?
Yeah, no, I do. There's a lot that I don't like, and that's more political talk, so I'll leave that. But in general, London is a great city.
Like I was telling you off camera, I haven't been here in 19 years.
Yeah, you said.
It looks great.
Yeah.
It's there's some cities like you leave and you come back 5 or 10 years later.
It looks different.
Yeah, shit kind of went to hell, but no, London looks good.
Yeah,
man.
it's always new developments and new buildings and things going up all the time. So it's and there's always stuff to do here. Always stuff to do.
It's sort of a broader question, but like we had an event last night. We met a bunch of MMA fans. We've been here for a few days. We talked to a bunch of fighters. It feels like MMA is big here and is doing really well, but it feels like there's so much untapped potential.
100%. It's still, weirdly enough, I think what it is, over here in the UK, they're still a bit more of a boxing country. So they favor more the boxers. They favor, and even that it's weird, even down to like sponsorship. So for myself, trying to get sponsorship, especially on the way up, it's difficult because people used to kind of turn their nose up at MMA. So as much as they watched it, as much as they knew who I was, and as much as they kind of knew a couple key fighters, it was still kind of like, it's a bit too brutal for our company. So it's definitely slowly coming out of that. But yeah, it's not quite there yet.
But getting the very small taste I've got of British culture here and the attitude of people in there, they seem like it's not like they would get caught up on the stereotype of like cage fighting or anything like that. Like these Londoners feel real. They just wear it on their sleeves. Like, this is what I'm about. Oh, you want to fight in a cage? Go ahead.
No, you know what? I think it's now that you come here now, I think it is getting to that point. But before, I think people were still kind of stuck on, it's a bit too brutal.
Yeah.
And even when I speak to people now, as much as they'll come and support me because it's me and, I have a relationship with them, they're still like, oh man, like how long are you going to be doing this for? And you know what I mean? They got all those kind of questions. So, there's still slight negative air in MMA.
Kind of like
culture.
how Luke looks at Power Slap,
I was there a little more than slight.
Yeah.
A lot negative.
Yeah, thank you, Dana.
Power Slap.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's a joke.
I can't do it, man.
Isn't that insulting to the mixed martial artist?
It's not,
especially with a guy like you who's got flashy offense and defense.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Where defense is such a critical component of what you do.
I don't get it. I see random clips like come up on like different feeds on social medias and stuff. I don't understand that at all.
Pretty soon they're just gonna start handing each other hammers and just
See who's the toughest. Yeah. So you want to be an ultimate hammer? That's it. That's it, Luke.
Okay.
The last time you fought here, this was the Logan Storley. No, you fought here for the Mike Perry fight
yes,
as well. Yeah?
Yes. So I had the bare knuckle fight, which was obviously very different. It's the first time, and I think they said 150 years that they had a actual live bare knuckle.
That's
event
crazy.
Dude, you had
in the UK.
You had a lot of balls for taking that fight. You had a lot of balls, man.
You know what is, to be fair, something that when I say grew on, not that anybody, a few people that I knew that was in the kickboxing world had gone and done it, and it was very undercover. So I always used to hear about it, and a lot of like fighters that I used to look up to had all done it before, and it's just their thing back in the day. So I never thought I'd ever have a chance to do it. And when the opportunity came, I was like, oh man, I have to do at least one.
I mean, it's kind of like, certain people that come up in certain MMA lineages look at Vale Tudo as like the real deal, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's brutal as shit too.
No, definitely.
Super fucking brutal.
Definitely.
What was the? I mean, looking back on it, what did you get from the experience?
To be fair, I enjoyed it. It wasn't obviously didn't go the way I wanted it to, but I just enjoyed I think everybody kind of loved it as much as it was. It's definitely its own type of brutal. When you connect, you feel every punch, even if the punch grazes you, it's different. Even in an MMA glove, it feels very different. I don't know, my knuckles is bony. I can't even explain. My face, my hands were swollen for about a week afterwards. But it was definitely something that I just wanted to just kind of get off my chest.
Now, when you share the airspace with somebody like Mike Perry, who comedically, I have a lot of respect for as a character. I love Mike, Daddy of Ocean. I love that gentleman, all right? Did you grow to find any of that same love? Because you guys had a wild, like, adversarial, then at times almost like, you're crazy, man. And I respect that crazy.
Nah, I like Mike Perry, man. It's hard not to like someone like him. He's game. He's not, sometimes you get the guys that, they're trolls, but then they can't really back it up, He's, he likes to be, funny. He likes to make noise and sell a fight. But he is about fighting, man. So you have to respect someone that comes in and actually backs up the talk.
Dude, we got told the wildest story about Mike Perry yesterday. So we talked to
Paul Craig.
Do you know who Paul Craig is? He's the 205er for the UFC out of Scotland.
Yes, yeah.
So he'll do the Braveheart thing.
Yeah.
And okay, so let me tell you the experience here. As an American, I watched it because we saw the Mel Gibson play William Wallace, and we it's like it's Hollywood, like that's not real shit that they did. And then as an American, I didn't know anything about it, so he starts wearing that on his face for the weigh-ins and stuff. And I'm like, oh, it must have been real because a Scottish guy is doing it, right? We talked to him about it. Do you know where he got the idea from that? He ran into Mike Perry in a hotel lobby, and Mike Perry was like, so you're from Scotland, huh? He's like, yeah. He's like, no, you know what you should do? You should come out with that blue face thing. And so fucking Paul Craig is like, dude, that's a brilliant idea. That's all Mike Perry.
That makes sense to me. That wouldn't even surprise me. I was like, yeah, okay, that makes sense. He's a
character,
wild.
Man.
He's a great character. Character.
He's 2% black and 98% heart. That
I like that. No, but he is, and to be fair,
the fight itself. Tell me what you learned in terms of both the.
Because he's in pro boxing,
right?
So he's done it all.
For folks who may not remember, it had to go. Correct me if I'm wrong. It had to go to a sudden death round, and he kind of edged it out late.
Yeah.
Walk me through the fight. Like what happened in there from your vantage point? How did it go?
So, obviously the first round, usually a feeling that process, he just came all guns blazing, coming in and caught me. I just made a silly mistake footwork wise, caught me clean, and just kind of rung my bell. Kind of fell over, got back up, and I just realized when I stood up, I was like, my legs are just not with me right now.
But you had mental clarity.
Just about.
Okay.
Yeah, I was like, yeah, my legs are not with me right now. I guess it's actually going to be a fight. Like, I can't make it technical and not be able to move because I'm just going to walk into shots again. So I was like, we're just going to have to fight. And it just felt like a bit more toe-to-toe. I tried to kind of, every now and again, I felt like I had moments where my legs came back to me. And then it would just disappear again. Then it's like we're taking shots, landing shots. It was bad technically from my point, but I really couldn't figure any way else out just because of that early shot.
So that really set the tone for the whole fight?
100%. In all honesty, I personally feel if I didn't get caught so early, it would have gone very differently. But even in the last round, so when they've kind of announced that, they're going to do an extra round.
Yeah, did you remember that was that
yeah, I remember them saying it. I was like, that's never going to go that far. And so we get to, they're like, oh, going to do another round. Everyone's cheering. I've gone over to my corner. I was like, I said to my coach, coach, I cannot feel my legs. And he looked at me, he was like, fuck your leg, go out there.
I remember that.
He's like, fuck your leg, go out there. And I was like, fair enough.
Who was this coach?
Alexis, yeah. He's the head shoot fighter coach. Also a guy that's training KSI now as well.
Yes.
And he's trained Chisora, David Hayes, like just everywhere. He kind of likes to keep himself silent, doesn't like the spotlight, but unbelievable coach.
It's a very Luke Thomas-like reaction. Fuck your legs.
Yeah, he's like,
that's what I would have told you. I would be like, get out there and fight.
Yeah, get back in.
Dude, but the end of that fight was brutal. It was awesome. It was almost too much. And I'm like, man, because I know, Paulie Malignaggi did it, and you can get sliced up.
Yeah. To be fair, I don't cut too easily, which is why I just swell. So he had cuts all over him, but for me, I just kind of ballooned up. I've looked slightly different for about a week, but went to Carnival like the week after or whenever it was.
It was good to go.
Oh yeah, I was good. I was actually worried. I was like, I don't think I can go out in public. And by the end, I was icing every minute of the day, and yeah, I was back out afterwards.
How do you make decisions now moving forward? Because you're in kind of a cool spot where you're a name fighter. You're in the title picture in your division. You could have been the interim champion right now. Like they probably should have been. We'll get to that. But the whole point is you've had 2 pro boxing matches. You just did a BKFC match. You're 35. How do you know that you're making the right decision on what to take next, when to do it? Because it was when they announced the BKFC fight, I was like, I didn't even know that was legal. Okay, let's do this. You know.
I have to say thanks to Bellator for even allowing for both the boxing and obviously the BKFC, because if they wanted to, they wouldn't. They didn't have to let me,
right?
So that is having Bellator as my team, I guess, in terms of where I fight MMA, allows me to do these kind of things. I always push them a little bit, but they're always, as long as timing works out, they're always kind of happy for me to do these kind of things. But with regards to what you're saying, you never know what the best thing or when the best thing is.
Sure.
What the best thing to. I just kind of have to just go with it and see what happens. I feel like I can't say I've made bad decisions. I think a lot of decisions that I've made has just been the wrong timing of things. Because even when I started doing the boxing, I was genuinely gonna push. I had my license done the same time as Lawrence Agoli, a big boxer over here. Fought the same day as Joe Joyce and so on and so forth. And you've seen their progression since. I had a couple of fights, and then somebody complained that I shouldn't be allowed to do both MMA and boxing at the same time, which is ridiculous. Because
when you say someone, you mean
I couldn't. Literally, it was a anonymous complaint written in to the board. So I got called into the boxing board. I got called into the boxing board. They had to sit down and go, "Oh, we need to figure this out because they've complained, and technically by the rules you got." And I sat there like, mate, I can just go back and do MMA. I don't need to be here. You guys can figure it out.
Sure.
And let me know when you're ready. And the reason I say that's technically bad timing is because flash forward, everybody's doing boxing. And now I'm getting calls left, right, and center. We want you to come back to boxing. Want to go? It's like, but I could have already been winning, pushing for belts and stuff within the boxing world as well as the MMA. And I feel competent enough to do both. And I've sparred loads of names in boxing, high-level boxers, and I'm sure every single one can account for my boxing ability as well. And yeah, it just technically those couple of those things that happened, technically for me, was just the wrong time.
Yeah, I mean, because as a businessman, which you have to be as well, the window's small, but there are moments if you make a power move that could change the rest of your life.
100%.
And when Jake Paul and the celebrity bubble opens back up, like you said,
your boys with KSI, right?
Yeah.
What is your relationship to KSI?
So he just trains at our gym. Like I said, he's working with our coach now. I think he's a lovely guy.
How long you known him?
Ever since he's come to our gym. He's been there for about just over a year now. Yeah, so I saw him. He was with him this morning training.
What do you think of the whole KSI Jake Paul phenomenon?
Again,
it's got a few different elements to it. What stands out to you?
For me, it kind of makes sense. I get why everybody jumped on it. It was at first a bit disappointing when all the boxing guys kind of jumped in and was just like giving them the platform. I was like, I get it if they're doing their own thing, but now you guys are kind of really endorsing them. But then I think that was me earlier on. I get it. The amount of his following is ridiculous. Like
KSI.
There's all these kind of YouTubers and stuff. Like when I went to one of the shows, there's guys that's just running after this guy over here. He's like, "Oh man, I saw your TikTok," and then they run over that guy. This guy on YouTube, and they run over that guy. And I was like, I haven't a clue who any of these people are.
You're getting old, Michael.
Oh, definitely getting old. Definitely getting old. I just don't have a clue. But like their following is ridiculous. Like there was a family in the last KSI fight. It was in the hotel. We're waiting to kind of cross over. There was a family waiting in the hotel. There was a grandma, mum, 2 daughters and a son. And it's like 17, like 9 and 6. And they were there for about 5 hours, refusing. That the grandma was like, I don't even know who these people are. I just want to go home. make sense. And they had them there. So I don't want to move until I see KSI. 5 hours. They were waiting there in hope that they might see him walk past. And the mum's like, I can't get them to move. They're
like
not.
Michael Jackson level commitment.
No,
I mean, that's
100%.
like,
No, 100%. These it's obsessive. And then like seeing all the stuff that's going on with the prime drinks now, that is legit crack on the roads. These kids will do anything to get a prime drink. And again, I was like,
so will Dana White.
Yeah. But so I get why people are jumping on it. I get because there's a lot of money, there's a lot of massive following that you're gonna get that comes with these guys. And for me, it's a case of as MMA fighters, boxing fighters, only difference between us and like the likes of like the Jake Pauls and stuff is you don't know where we started. So there's guys in MMA that started as rugby players. There's guys that started as mechanics. There's guys that started as this, but they're not recorded. They're not, they're not publicizing themselves. So if they was, would people be complaining like, oh, you're just a mechanic. You shouldn't be doing boxing. If you take it seriously, any combat form, if you're taking it seriously, I respect it. And I'm watching these guys put in work, calling people out, winning fights. I respect it.
The other part too about the Jake Paul stuff, we haven't seen the KSI side, but we've seen the Jake Paul side. The other part too about it is like, it reflects the actual truth of consumer preferences. And I'll tell you what I mean. Like obviously Mayweather Pacquiao sold a lot of pay-per-view buys, an inordinate amount, but so did Mayweather and McGregor. The idea that what the public wants every time is number one versus number two, yes, sometimes they want that, and sometimes that sells well. People just like who they like, and they want to see that against someone else they like. I said this before, Kimbo Slice still has the highest rated episodes of The Ultimate Fighter. He has the highest rated event on CBS, and he has the highest rated event for Bellator ever. Did you know Kimbo Slice is the most popular fighter in Bellator history?
No, I didn't know.
Kimbo fucking Slice.
Yeah.
He was never going to be a world champion, but they loved him. This kind of reminds me a little bit of that.
Yeah,
right?
fair enough. Yeah, fair enough. That definitely makes sense. And as you say, if you just like somebody, you're just going to follow them regardless of what they're doing. And obviously from the KSI side, I'm seeing him sell out tours doing music. Sell out, he's doing podcasts and they're sold out. He's doing charity football events and they're sold out. Everything he touches right now blows up. Like I said, it's just the fan base is wild. So I get it. I'm seeing him do it in multiple different, industries and the same result. So right now he's hot, and the same with Jake Paul. But with Jake Paul, I kind of, after, regardless of that, the antics and stuff, because that's just him selling fights, I kind of like what he's talking about with regards to, the MMA fighters being paid well and stuff. It's something that I'm an advocate for.
Why do some fighters get mad at him for that? I don't understand that.
That doesn't make sense to me. Because he's technically doing you guys a favor.
Yeah.
If he is successful in making that happen, then everybody that's in the sport gets paid better. So why would you?
Even if he doesn't mean it, and I don't know what level of his Robin Hood thing is like pure and real, or just it makes sense to be Dana's enemy. Either way, people can benefit from the change that can come when somebody that famous enough is speaking out.
100%, and obviously you've seen with the Francis Ngannou and what's happened there. It's just disappointing. Things like that, I think, shouldn't happen. Yeah. You know what I mean? You guys are.
What should have happened there? Because Francis, like Deontay Wilder was even calling out Francis for a
I think everyone is now. Yeah.
So maybe it works out in the end. But so what did you mean when you say it shouldn't have gone that way?
As in, for me, you're the biggest and best champion, combat champion. Because MMA for me is the toughest sport combat wise, and you're in the heavyweight division. It's the division that everybody wants to see. Everyone loves to see two big people fighting. You win a belt and you're complaining about finances and you're complaining. You shouldn't be that stuff shouldn't even be getting out to public. That shouldn't even be a story. I think as hard as we train to just get to the UFC or get to these higher shows, once you get there, you shouldn't still have to be struggling for the same thing. I'm watching people in my gym, guys that come into the gym, train hard, they're busting their ass because they're fighting on the same shows as me. And once they finish their session, they have to quickly get washed and changed because in the evening, they got to stand on the door as a security guard. And then they got to do that till 6 a.m, sleep for a couple of hours to then get back up and come and train with us again. And they're doing that just so they can, but they've already made it, if you know what I mean. They've made it to the pinnacle of their career, and yet they're still having to do all these kind of things. And I personally think that's disgusting. That shouldn't be the case. You'd never see an NFL player or football player or basketball player get to the pinnacle, and have to still be working somewhere else just to keep doing what you love. You keep doing your passion. So and then not only have you got to the show, you've got to the highest point of the show. You are the heavyweight champion of the world, and you're complaining about finances. For me, it's a letdown for everybody, I think. And I think these kind of stories shouldn't be coming out. It should just be like, yeah, no problem. Before you even complain about anything, this is all sorted for you. I don't know the ins and outs. I don't know the specifics on what he's getting exactly, and maybe other potential benefits. But yeah, there's a lot that needs to be done better, and that's not just UFC. It's everybody.
Do you feel satisfied with? We'll just ask you outright, with your treatment in Bellator.
Yeah, like I think I went through a phase, and I'm not sure if some people might have seen it or not, but I had issues with them, and then we sat down with them, and they were like, okay, look, next time just come straight to us, spoke to them, and then they rectified it. So I'm fortunate. I know not everybody's getting that treatment, and I also know there's other fighters that have complained still in my organization, but they're not as, say, popular as me yet. So they have to work their way up. But again, my point is, why are you still having to hustle in the same way once you're there?
Yeah, the system's broken.
The system doesn't work. I think there should be some format where, they get a little bit more help in that department. Would you like
to see a union?
Oh, a union would help everybody. Yeah. But at the same time, it potentially could slow certain things down. Yeah. So there'll be a bit of a back and forth before you kind of find, the balance. But yeah, I guess a union just protects us. And I think we've seen it with the likes of Ariel Helwani getting kicked out by Dana White and immediately put back in just because he has support elsewhere, and everybody's like, yep, if you're going to kick him out, then we're not coming. All right, fine, we'll bring him back in. It's just having that kind of support allows you to have a bit more negotiating power, and it not just be one-sided, because it is. And unfortunately, there's times that I've seen, if somebody, in the UFC or in other shows are unhappy about certain things, you can get cut as well. So again, then potentially your next paycheck down is very different to what you were getting there as well, because they dominate the majority of the sport. So it's very difficult for fighters. You have to be careful. You don't want to piss anybody off, and you're always treading on eggshells while still hustling.
Nah, we just make enemies.
Yeah,
we just make enemies. You know what I mean? Like I said, the part two, it's a very difficult industry in which to be candid.
Yeah, 100%.
For all the people who claim they're tough guys, boy, it's really not the case. Like they get very upset with words. It's kind of a contradiction, but it's true. Right?
Okay, they're tough in different departments, though. I think the one thing that we don't talk about is that just the mental side of just even getting to a fight, or the mental side during a fight. I've seen, and I'm sure loads of people have seen it. You see some of the most amazing athletes in your gym, and they just struggle to transfer that when the lights are on.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? The crowd is there and the lights on, and all of a sudden they're like, deer in headlights, and they struggle to get over that. I'm fortunate to kind of thrive.
You're the opposite.
Yeah. I get lifted from that environment, but not everybody's the same. Like even when the COVID stuff happened, people were like, how do you think it's gonna affect people? I said, weirdly enough, I think we'll see better fighters come out of it, because they'll go there almost feeling like it's another training session.
Sure.
And they'll probably perform better than when there's a crowd there and there's a bit more pressure. And I feel like there's a lot of people, in a lot of sports, the same thing happened.
What's your makeup? What's your background that lifts you? Because I've seen it. It's funny, right? Like with you, it brings you alive to a degree. And what's funny? I saw in wrestling there was a guy named Kyle Dake. He's the only guy in amateur wrestling in college in the United States. He won the national title in college all 4 years, but he did it in a different weight class all 4 years. Pretty impressive, right? No one else has ever done that. And dude, when you would see the lights come on, dude, he was a different animal. He had a twinkle in his eye. But so I've seen it in striking guys. I've seen it in wrestling guys. What is that?
Yeah, is that a negotiation with the anxiety? Because we're all human. So is it just like, no, I'm in control of this energy?
No, I in the earlier stages, I wouldn't say that at all. I think I was fortunate because the industry that I was in before is like freestyle kickboxing, which is similar to taekwondo or sport karate.
You once called it 630 striking.
Yeah, 630, hands down. So that style is just a very chaotic industry, and it kind of reminds me of like the jiu-jitsu world. You go in there, it's just mats just going on, like 6, 7 mats, and just everybody's moving around. The refs are moving, everyone's shouting. It's just very messy. And I've been doing that since I was 5 years old. So I'm used to chaos. So for me, I had to just learn, just because of my circumstance, being able to perform in chaos. And it got to the point where, because these are people that I travel with and see week in, week out. So, you're friends with the coaches, you're friends with referees, you're friends with just other competitors. So I might be in an event and somebody calls my name, Michael, we need you to coach this guy. Yeah, no problem. Stand behind him, coach. Next, Michael, can you referee this on this mat? Yeah, no problem. I'll jump on the mat, start refereeing. Mike, to just get called out my name because I need to get ready to go and fight. And imagine having to just rush around doing all of that, and then you've got to quickly rush, get changed, quick warm up, jump on the mat and perform. So I had to get used to just turning on in that moment. And
that's really interesting to hear how those muscles got formed. I can see it now.
Do you know what I mean? Yeah. So it's weirdly enough, it wasn't because I was able to program myself.
Almost like
and
action.
100%. I had to get used to that simply because of what was going on prior to. And I always say that I think because of that, I genuinely, I think I could have the worst day. Craziness happen. I can crash a car, jump out the car, get into the mat and still perform. Just because I have an on button now that I'm just used to having to just press. And it's just through habit. Then I crossed over to the MMA world, and it's weird. I always tell everybody, watch my first ever MMA fight, just the walkout. Because everybody knows me from, dancing, smiling, My first MMA fight, I was like this. I was a robot because I was shitting myself. I didn't know, obviously the coaches, I think the belief that the coaches had in me and what I've seen of them, let me know that, okay, I must be good enough. But this is not my world still. This is my first ever MMA fight. And I was dying inside. And my walkout, literally, face is straight as hell. I just want this over and done with. I got to the cage. And again, I'm just kind of like pacing around. I got quite a lot of following from the kickboxing world. They're screaming my name. And I'm dying inside. I was like, I've never felt like this before. Never. And the bell went and I started fighting. And I was like, the second I started bouncing, I was like, oh, this is the same. This is the same as every. Literally, the same button happened. Even as much as I had all this pressure in me, it just disappeared in a second. And then I had a viral knockout. You know what I mean? So for me, I was lucky enough to grow in chaos, which allowed me to kind of, be used to it.
So that's your baseline then. In baseline, man, you can handle the moment. You know how to act like a star and sell yourself. But then there's levels to this. And there's a level to be able to almost slow it down. That's how they say in basketball. They say a Larry Bird or Michael Jordan could just see the action so slow. So is it because of that strong foundation that it's easy for you to jump into a zone? Because as a striker, you're kind of like an artist. I know you care about winning more than anything at the end of the day, but I know you really care about leaving your mark in the moment as an entertainer. It's part of your mindset. So do you feel like you can almost just float in and out of the zone and things just happen?
So I would say, the entertainment side of things is both. I think the Caribbean background, we're all very loud. I all trying to get attention, love to dance and sing and this and that. So when you see if my family's here, it's just noise, it's just
very festive.
Oh, very festive.
Yeah.
And I guess another, thing that I've been grown in. When my dad used to fight in the kickboxing, he was the same. He used to put on a show, dance and stuff after kicking someone in the head. So I've seen it as well.
Yeah.
But then also, like I said, imagine going to these competitions and there's multiple different mats. People used to compete. So if you're fighting, even if I'm not fighting the next top guy, if I'm fighting on area 1 and he's fighting on area 3, I'm trying to drag as many people over to my mat,
right?
And he's trying to do the same thing.
Game within the game.
It was weird.
Fuck mat 3.
Yeah,
How about that?
exactly. Fuck mat 3. I'm gonna do some crazy kick over here. Everyone's like, "Oh my god!" and then rush over to your mat. So that became a weird battle in itself, and it got to the point for me where they used to do so much antics that the second I jumped on a mat, the competition stopped because referees wanted to see me fight as well. They're like, "Time, wait." and just then all be like standing there. There'll be a crowd around my mat, and I'm like, yeah, I love that.
You're like,
So
I won. It doesn't matter if I won the match. I won.
I won
everybody.
everything.
Yeah.
So that for me as well also helped with that performance side of me, and I think just I've spent years of people just trying to punch and kick me.
Yeah, but you tend to create these moments, and even if you don't land the moment, I watch you differently than I watch other elite mixed martial artists. So I used to say this about the Cuban boxers, right? They believe in their craft so much that it's almost art. It is art to where if there's ever a criticism ever of a Cuban boxer, it's like he's so focused on painting this picture that he should have done this instead to win the fight. They're artists. Do you walk around and feel like an artist when you're in that?
Oh, 100%. I don't. I always for a long time forget that combat is what I'm doing. I always forget that it's dangerous. It's only when I say civilians, like when they're asking me questions about your fighting and stuff, and I forget that punching and kicking people is not normal. But
No, it's
I've
not.
done it since I was 3 years old.
Right.
But it's not normal. So for me, I'm not talking to them like, oh, like, yeah, I landed this punch. And in their head, they're like, oh my God. But I'm like, oh no, but it's a game. Like in my head, I've done it for so long. It's a game. I used to punch and kick my brothers and sisters that all used to compete with me as well. I'm like, if I can hit them, I'm sorry, but you have no chance.
Do you have a favorite viral knockout? The Pokemon ball one?
I think the Pokemon ball is probably just going to be the one that is just attributed
blew
to
up,
me.
huh?
Yeah, attributed to me the most.
How-
I've actually had a kid
tell
go,
me, like-
you're the Pokemon man.
Yeah, I was gonna say, what was the fallout from that?
Because there was so many things that happened in that time. Obviously, the injury itself drew a lot of attention.
Yeah, that was gnarly.
Yeah,
Yeah, I want to ask you about that in a minute. But go ahead and make this.
the injury itself drew a lot of attention. The jump knee drew a lot of attention, and then the Pokemon celebration drew a lot of attention. And just all three of those things at the same, like that obviously happened in that moment. It went crazy. But it's weird. Like, I get similar to what I spoke about earlier about how people were a bit standoffish about those things. So we had Nintendo like reach out to like I think it was Paradigm, and they were like, man, we saw it. It was great. So they're like, yeah. So how about we do some work together? And they're like, yeah, but it's a bit brutal for our audience. And I was like, that's crazy. But I kind of get it. But then yeah, so. It was just a lot of noise, and it just I think there's a lot of fighters that maybe didn't respect me at that time started to second guess themselves and were like, actually, this guy might actually be a problem.
You can fuck around and find out.
Yeah.
For sure.
That injury, I thought about that injury. Like,
So we're talking about Cyborg Knockout?
Cyborg
Yeah,
Santos. If you didn't see, you cracked his skull, actually in a few places at the very front, right? And I remember looking at the x-rays, and I thought to myself, I was like, now, the good news is, A, he'll be okay. B, this is a very rare injury. In fact, I don't think I've ever seen it since. But I thought to myself, I was like, dude, if this was a thing that was like imagine if you got in a fist fight, you run the risk of every time that happening. MMA wouldn't be legal.
Yeah, 100%.
You couldn't have the sport.
100%. Yeah.
This was nearly Faces of Death.
Yeah, so we'll allow this exception.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's one of the most fucking insane injuries I've ever seen.
Did you know it right when you hit it?
Not at all. So because he got hit and turned away from me face down.
Yes, he got kicked the mat with his.
Yeah,
he
he's
was
kicking.
Like,
So
he was holding his face, right?
So I assumed that I got his nose. So I knew he was like because he's kicking. I'm like, I know you're not knocked out. You're just in pain. So I just thought, But even the sound when watching it back didn't sound like that to me.
It sounded like an egg being crushed.
Yeah,
in a
it was
pan.
like the hitting a home run. That sound just went out. But I didn't hear that in that moment. I just did the jump. And another thing is, I've landed knees before, and most of the time I get a cut or I feel bruised from me landing the knee. Nothing. So this must have been the perfect connection.
Yeah.
And like I said, like 1 in a gazillion chance of this ever happening. It was weird. It was weird.
Were you worried at all? Like I always
The day after, yeah.
because it's like obviously you feel for the fighter who's injured, but I often feel for the guy who fought the other guy.
How does it not change?
Because they are always like, dude, I'm not trying to send this person home in this condition, you know.
So because I didn't know that evening. So my coach said he saw it because he saw him when he was walking out and didn't want to ruin my evening. So he was just like, didn't tell me. The next day, my sister sent me a picture of the picture that he put out from hospital. So when she sent me the picture, I started laughing because my family are full of jokers. Yeah. So I assumed that she edited the picture.
You guys are too deep in the meme generation here. You know?
I thought she edited the picture and she was like, ha ha ha, look what you did. And I was like, I started laughing. She's like, no, he put the picture. This is serious. I was like, what? So I phoned my coach. He kind of confirmed it. I phoned Paradigm guys. So we started to try to do things to raise money and so on and so forth because I heard he teaches. But again, this guy's a man of all mans. One, he checked himself out of hospital even though he shouldn't have. I think he flew home as well.
That was not smart.
It wasn't smart. Done it to have the operation home. And then all the money that was raised, he gave it to I think one of his charities.
Wow.
Which gonna give it away. So he's like, I don't need money, and then gave it away. So much respect to him as well. And like I said, I'm happy to hear that it wasn't a bad. Obviously, it was a bad injury, but in terms of what happened afterwards, and he's completely fine.
I mean, that may be the moment when the highlight reel of MVP one day is finished that sticks out first because it was so crazy.
Yeah.
But dude, no disrespect to a guy I've always liked, Caveman Rickels, because he's a badass.
Yeah.
You did things to him that Anderson Silva did to Forrest Griffin. You know what I mean? That it was just like it was a video game and you were the controller. And I mean, you talk about it in the flow in the moment. That's it, right?
Yeah. No, I definitely. You'll always see in a fight with me. It starts off from a bit not cautious. Yeah, I'll say cautious in terms of I'm faking a lot, I'm moving a lot, I'm trying to read. I call it attaching strings. So I'll fake my jab to see what hand or what leg twitches for you, and that's my string that I attach to that. So if I twitch and that leg twitches, I'm like, okay, you like to do this when I do this, and I'll do it a couple of times just to see. Okay, oh yeah, you definitely you're waiting for something when I do this, and so. The first minute,
if you did that, seconds, I'm just going to cover in the fetal position. I'm not. You're not attaching any strings to me.
So that's what I usually do in the earlier stages, just to kind of work out what my opponent's looking for as well.
You're playing marionetta in your head. You're like, I can make you do this.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. And then that's when you start seeing me, shoulder rolling and like smiling. For me, I've attached all the strings I need. And now it's a case of how I'm going to, which move am I going to assign to this?
It's literally like Luke and what's that game you play?
Here we go.
Mortal Kombat 11. There it is.
I do love Mortal Kombat.
You do?
You're
MK fan?
You're doing it with your fingers.
The thing is, I don't play any video games except Mortal Kombat.
Okay.
That's it. I don't play shit else.
Fair enough.
Do you have like a favorite Bellator win for you? Here's why I bring it up. Like, I wonder about the Douglas Lima win because you did lose to him the first time.
Yeah.
Then you get the redemption in the second time. It's been. Is that your last win? I think that's pretty close, right? In MMA.
Was it? I think it was Derek. I can never remember the order, but
in any case,
yeah.
Is that the most satisfying one to get that one back?
Yes and no.
Really?
Yeah. Yes and no. I think I don't know if I can be hard on myself, but. As much as I want, I didn't get it the way I wanted to get it. So it's a win and it's great. But yeah, I wanted and I know I can get more out of that situation. So it wasn't like there's been many a times where I've won fights and come away pissed, like furious at myself because I didn't do what I wanted to do. So
yeah, I mean, I got to ask, what happened against Paul Daly? It wasn't the fight we thought.
Yeah. To be fair, that was quite shocking for me. In terms of the game plan that he came out, I think annoyingly...
A lot of wrestling.
Yeah, he turned into a wrestler that day, but I think annoyingly the potential of the $1 million made him focus more on the money than this fight, this issue that we've had for however long it was. So he tried to cheat his way through. I was just game like, let's fight. Let's settle this properly. Yeah,
it was like an adult movie with only dialogue. Yeah. It's like, the chick's hot. I mean, come on.
So, yeah, that was annoying for me. Personally, and I never like to even make excuses, but I think we're far enough away now. But I'm trying to think the timing of it. I believe it's like 3 or 4 months before my father passed away. And it was weird because my coach even said to me even after the fight, I was trying to find any reason to pull you out, but you were doing everything right in training. In which I said to him, the only reason I was doing everything right in training is because that was my peace. Because if I had to go home, my mind was just going crazy. Right. So I was in the gym more, training and doing everything right. Weird thing is, second I got to the fight, I had nothing in my head. I got there, bell rings, and I was blank. Then he starts wrestling, and I'm like, oh, I know this move, don't worry. And then he takes me down. And I'm like, okay. And I can almost hear myself thinking step by step, okay, what do I need to do now? And you can't be that slow in a fight.
Right, it has to be reactive.
Yeah, it has to be reactionary. And I just scraped a win, and I think it's more to do with the last round. Well, first round, he decided to just run, which was annoying, but stupidly, that gave me the round, because I think I only landed like a punch and a kick, but he didn't do anything, and he was on the back foot. So that, he kind of gave a round away, then kind of made it back up with a lot of the wrestling. We had a couple of even rounds, and then the fifth round, he made a mistake, and I ended up taking his back and then landing a load of shots. And I finished the fifth round on top. So he gave me a round, he gave me the fifth round. I only had to win one round in between that. And I can't remember what round they gave me. But yeah, I felt like the game plan he came for was just stupid. He should have just tried to strike. Like you put your best foot forward. But for me, that also shows how intimidated he was of me. I don't mean like scared of me. I just mean like worried about me landing a flashy knockout or just knocking out.
There goes the million.
He didn't want to. He didn't want to get memed.
He didn't want to get memed, and he also just wanted to just sneak go focus more on the money. And again, disappointing for a lot of people, including myself. I wasn't in the right mind frame, but the fact that I won that fight shows me that if he actually just fought, he probably would have knocked me out.
You think so?
Because, well, the way I was, how I feel about how I was in that fight.
Oh, I see.
My mind wasn't there. So technically, if he just put his best foot forward, the likeliness is he probably could have just won.
And this game is so unfair, and I'm sure you feel that as a public figure, win or lose, people coming at you. But it's like you beat Paul Daly and you get criticized for, you got lucky or you didn't deserve it. Mm-hmm. And then you fight for the interim title.
Yeah. And it happens the other way around.
And from your game plan to how you defended against Logan Storley to you got
that was here in London, correct?
Yeah.
You get taken down, but you get back up. You win the striking moments. That's a different scenario because it comes down to judging criteria, which I feel like is all over the place.
Yeah,
from
definitely.
Judges to media members to fighters. Like no one really knows exactly what it is. I mean, I felt like you took that like a gentleman and a sportsman, but that's the game, right? You could be the interim champion right now, and it came down to judges' interpretation of whether he was active in the guard, which I don't think Logan was when he took you down.
I agree with you. But for me, this is the side that I guess people haven't seen of me is, like I said, when I was in the kickboxing world, I used to get my ass kicked week in, week out. We'd drive 3 hours down to Manchester and drive all the way up to Scotland and drive to this place and that place. Every single weekend we were somewhere and I'm fighting all day, or I get there and it's knockout. So you get there, first fight, lose, and I have to sit down and just watch everybody, all my brothers and sisters still fighting, and then I got to watch the adults going because the kids went first. Then we have to sit down and watch the adults, and the day starts at 7 of us getting picked up in the morning, drive all the way 3 hours down to a competition starting at 10. And then we're there till 9, 10 and have to drive all the way back. This is every weekend. And seriously, those guys that I'd get there and every time I saw them, I was like, shit, man, I'm just going to get my ass kicked. And that was for at least 4 or 5 years as a kid, but 4 or 5 years. And I think as a kid, it was difficult, especially I think a lot of the kids nowadays are too impatient. I don't think anybody would have stayed. I think I stayed just because it was a family thing. But, we're driving all the way up, feeling good, get there, I lose. Everybody comes back with medals on their neck. I'm sitting there like this and I'm just hearing clink, 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 clink.
Those moments grind.
Yeah.
Everyone's like Slick Rick.
Yeah, man. And my brothers and sisters, like my older brothers and sisters, they were really good from young, and they would always get like place. My sister was really good. My brother's really good, and I got a lot of the adults. So we had a team called London Predators. They were unbelievable. Like people used to get scared just seeing you in your uniform. They did, everywhere we went, made noise, but just not me.
Well,
Bro, Hauser, do you watch Karate Kid, like the TV show?
Oh yeah, I think it's getting a bit sameish now, but I still watch it.
I mean, I don't watch it because I don't
Cobra
like.
Kai.
I don't,
Yeah,
I don't,
Cobra Kai
I don't
now,
find
yeah.
the lives of teens interesting.
Yeah.
But short of that, I
do.
wondered if you felt like a little watching it. This guy loves the lives of teens.
Tyron Woodley plays Sensei Odell. It's a great
Listen,
role.
there's a
right?
reason why Romeo and Juliet is Shakespeare's worst work. Don't give a shit about the lives.
You're
of
saying
teens.
Romeo would have ended up waiting in the diner that I go to? My factory
Yeah,
town?
for the waitress.
She had her day though, and in her day, woo. You know, no. The spirit of my question though, which I said incorrectly, was like you get villainized when you win a close fight people didn't love, and then you fight great against Logan and could have actually won, and people are like, that might be the best performance of his career. You
Did
know?
you think you had won?
And in the moment, yeah, I did. And that's
Before they announced.
Yeah, and my coach was telling me, kind of like letting me know how things was going on. I knew it was going to be close, but in my head as well, I was like, he hadn't done enough as well. Even like when I was in like dangerous positions, like I was talking to him during the fight. I was like, you can do better than
Your
this.
face was not marked up.
I wasn't, nothing. And it's weird because even, I don't know how he feels about it. I haven't spoken to him again afterwards, but there's pictures of him and like videos of him, and he looks so disappointed. Again, I've been disappointed winning, but in a different way. Not because it was close, because I've made mistakes. But I still got a knockout or something, but I'm just disappointed in a couple of things that I could have done better. Him, he just seemed very even his speech afterwards, like, well, what do you expect me to do? It's MVP. I'm not going to stand in front of it. Like, he kind of lost his shit. But yeah, for me, I'm not shy of losing fights. I'm good at what I do, which is why I win more than I lose. But a loss is a loss.
It's obvious you grew up in that. That's just the environment. And amateur wrestlers say it when they went to tournaments all the time.
Yeah.
I got used to losing. You have to get used to deal
Dude,
with
in
it.
the sports where the best
100%.
fight the best, like, dude, the best lose. Like, I'm sorry, they just
100%.
lose.
And it's just, you are the better man on this day. It doesn't
Right.
mean I can't beat you.
Right.
It just means today, you are the better man.
People who don't watch like the combat sports where there's lots of competition all the time,
Yeah.
they don't understand. Like, do you look at Jordan Burroughs, like the most decorated American wrestler ever? Dude, I've seen him get absolutely mollywopped by some of those Iranians.
yeah.
It just is inevitable.
100%.
Okay, so if there was any question that MVP's desire to win a title was, stopped at all with the tight loss to Storley, you're coming right back against Goiti Yamauchi. March,
yes.
what's the
March
date?
10th.
March 10th, San
Bellator
Jose.
292.
Yes.
And for people that don't know, there's the two fights in the Grand Prix that are going to be in there. Usman Nurmagomedov is going to take on Benson Henderson.
Yep.
A lot of interesting fights up
Big
and down
fights,
that
yeah.
card. Now we add that fight to the card. So, look, he's coming off a very impressive knockout.
Very
win. Was that
impressive,
Neiman
yeah.
Gracie?
Neiman
Yes,
Gracie,
which
yeah,
I did
yeah.
not think he was going to do.
But he also does
Yeah.
like fun shit in a fight.
Yeah,
These are
yeah,
two
yeah.
guys that do fun shit that are coming together. And oh, by the way,
Also,
it's
he's
probably,
going after your legs.
It's
I mean,
probably
you
a
have
number
to
one
know.
contenders fight.
100%.
So are you thinking like, man, we can make some fireworks and I can get back to the title here?
Yeah, so again, I always say anybody that thinks I'm like, lost interest. After losing to Douglas Lima, I fought 5 times. And after every single time, I'm like, I want that fight again. I want that fight again. I want that fight again. I was just calling them out. They wouldn't give it to me. I was like, cool, give me another fight. Like immediately. Fought 5 times in 1 year just to get back to what I needed to do. After that fight, I was like, when am I fighting again? Because I'm trying to get back. Same attitude. They were like, unfortunately, we don't have the space on the shows that we have. Come in, it's not going to be a little while, which is why they gave me the opportunity to fight bare knuckle, just to kind of, because they know I'm just going to be sitting there bugging them every day. So they're like, okay, let him do something, while we're sorting stuff out over here. Now it's time for me to get back, and it's the same attitude. It's going to be different. I kind of, not that I didn't expect him to knock him out like that, but I kind of did expect both their two jiu-jitsu styles to cancel each other out. And it was going to be more of a striking thing. And there's a lot of stuff that I've seen with Neiman Gracie. I don't rate his striking. He kind of he's aggressive and like throws big shots, but it's just very predictable. There's no real combinations and things that put together well, in my
panache.
opinion. Yeah, no panache. But so it didn't shock me. I was shocked at a knockout, but it didn't shock me that he won the fight.
But dude, he stood there and like he headbutted Neiman Gracie's punches like, on purpose like that, and then polished him off.
Yeah.
Dude, this is a guy that fought. Correct me if I'm wrong. Yamauchi has fought at 145.
Yes, exactly.
So he's knocking out a true one.
Yeah,
Neiman
exactly.
Gracie's not the biggest 170 I've ever seen, but he's He's
No,
a
he's
true
a big guy.
welterweight.
He's a big
true
guy. He's a true
welterweight.
welterweight. Yeah, 100%.
And he
I
can
was-
take
I
a
was
punch
impressed.
too. He could take a
Yeah,
punch
yeah,
for a
yeah,
while too.
yeah, yeah.
Who,
Definitely.
Yamauchi?
No,
No,
Gracie.
Gracie.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
he's a tough guy. Like
Yeah.
I was impressed. I was surprised.
No, definitely. And the thing is, I'm sure he's got the most submissions in Bellator as well.
Yes, he's got the most in Bellator history. That's right.
So he's like you said, that's where he's gonna be best. With Neiman Gracie, it probably smart for him to be like, there's no reason for me to see who's better at jiu-jitsu. We can do that on the mat somewhere else. Here it's about winning the fight, and that's why I thought it would cancel out. It seemed more like Neiman wanted to kind of take him down, and he was just being defensive.
But we kind of have a final four now, because if whoever comes out of you and Yamauchi, and we're going to get the rematch now, the unification with Yaroslav Amosov, the unbeaten champion, and of course Logan Storley, maybe with your interim belt, depending on which side of the line you're on. Who comes out of that fight? We've seen it already, and that fight was really good the first time around.
First one was 3 rounds though.
It was 3 rounds.
Just 3 rounds.
And I don't want to, like, Amosov's been off for a long time, and he's been doing things that are different than training for fights, and we respect that, but, like, we're asking him to come right back and fight Logan Storley. How do you sort of handicap this one?
I think Logan might have the slight advantage. From their first fight, to be fair, Amosov defended very well, because I'm sure it was like something ridiculous. Like he only got taken down, was it 3 times?
Not even. I think it was twice.
Out of like 14
After
attempts.
gazillion
or stupid
scrambles,
attempts.
yes.
So he knows how to defend, but it did burn him out.
Yes.
So what we're saying is in the 4th and 5th round, does Logan Storley still have the energy to keep shooting?
Right.
Because we've seen after 3 rounds that he was dead as well. But I think both of them were. So it's a difficult one to call.
You're 35. You've probably got some time left to do some good work. What do you want to do? What's important to you? What do you want to achieve with the time you have remaining as in some of the best form of your career?
I do want to box again. Probably with gloves on this time.
Mike,
I
you get
gotta
a
say,
for it, right?
I gotta say, like I thought you were gonna win that one, but then when Mike Perry edged it out, I was like, okay, here's what worked against you, right? Dude, that ring is so small. A guy like you needs room to duck and dodge and move and pivot.
Mm-hmm.
You just had no room. There's a circle. It's 2. It's not edges.
It's a circle, but the ropes don't go all the way back to the edge of the circle. So the platform itself is actually quite big, but then it's like let's say if this is the edge of the platform, the ropes start here.
Yeah.
So it just, when you actually get in, you're like, oh shit, this is
We're in a phone booth,
kind of
yeah.
tight, yeah. So yeah, it definitely didn't favor me in that moment, but I would never use that as an excuse. So I know if I was to do that again, I know I can figure that out. That's not.
So there's not like going to be a 3-fight series with Mike Perry, 1 real boxing, 1 BKFC, 1 MMA.
I like that though.
That'd be kind
I
of
do
fun.
like that. I do
Okay,
like that.
I'm into it.
They'd be good fights. Every which way,
yeah,
right?
Yeah. And that's what I'm saying. He's game every single time. So
Okay, but when he asked you what else do you want to accomplish, you win this fight, you could be fighting for the full title. Is that like still the day one? Like we mentioned, we talked to Paul Craig, and one of the big things he told us was like, or who said, was it Arnold Allen who said it?
Yeah, Arnold Allen was like, if I don't win a title, everything I've done is a waste.
he's a great fighter.
He's a great fighter. But
Yeah,
I
but
just
that's
don't
the
agree with that.
mindset.
As a spectator,
Yeah,
I
I
don't
know.
agree.
I personally don't agree because I always look at. I think unfortunately people do look at your medals and your accolades that you do get on the way that justify how good you are. But then you have exceptions. But if you have people that just look at the sport and the talent in football, soccer, there are players that unfortunately, when they went to specific teams, the teams just didn't win. But they themselves transformed that team, and that person is an unbelievable player. But because he doesn't have all the medals and the things to go along with it, people are like, oh no, he's definitely better because he's got 5 Champions Leagues and this and that. And I don't agree with that. I think if you're just watching and paying attention to talent, you can see talent. But for me, 100% win this fight. I definitely want a belt. I think it's nice to be able to just say you've achieved. So that's the goal. And like I said, I would like to also lean into boxing again. I would love to but take it seriously though, like without people complaining about me. Just go in there and actually push to try and get some big fights in boxing as well.
You're one of the more interesting fighters who never fought in UFC. I wonder how you feel about that. Like, doesn't seem like it was really ever necessary for you. Some guys would have been more necessary for than others. Michael Chandler didn't go to UFC till like the last chapter of his career. He's made a lot of it. He spent most of his time in Bellator. How do you feel about never having competed there?
Yeah, I don't see it as anything big. Again, as you were saying about decisions, it's a decision that I made a lot earlier. That what I'm getting here, and me supporting this show as well was important to me. I feel like I was making enough noise myself. There are 100%. There's always fights. I always look at that like, oh man, it'd be nice to fight against this guy and try my skills against this guy. So there's definitely fights I would have liked to have made over there, but I think it's just part of my journey, is what it is.
I once made the mistake because I saw a picture with you with Israel I'm going to say his last name wrong. Adesanya. So I thought and that was the weekend he walked out for the Okoli fight with was it Anthony Joshua and somebody else? I forget the third one. But
no, just those two.
Just those two. Yeah. And for some reason, I also thought he saw MVP, so he must be Nigerian as well. You are not. Right. Your family is from where? Like where are they
Jamaica
from?
And Trinidad.
And how often do you get back there?
Oh, quite regularly. Well, obviously, the last time Jamaica was before the lockdown, and the last time in Trinidad was not too long ago. I think it was last year. Yeah, so I go back and forth. But weird enough, I actually done my ancestry, and it's by way of Ghana.
Okay, by way of Ghana.
Wow.
Yeah. So I go back. I was in Ghana 2 years ago, Christmas. I'm going again in
Ghana's
June.
like actively recruiting people to move home.
Oh
People who
man,
are descendants of Ghana
it's
to move
beautiful
back.
over there. It is beautiful.
They're
over
making
there,
a pitch to African Americans to move back.
Incredible boxing culture in Accra.
Yeah. I actually sparred some of the guys.
Right?
Yeah. I sparred
Tons
some
of
of the guys
hammers
over there
over
as well. There's a guy, famous guy over there called Azuma Nelson.
Oh yeah.
Went to his house.
Did you really?
Yeah, I went to his house. Got invited to his house. He's got a gym in his house. He's trained with some of the guys that train there with him. It was cool. I really have to say, I just fell in love with the place. As soon as I got there, it just felt like, I was like, this is home.
I gotta say, Jamaican champions right now. Leon Edwards, Jamaican champion.
Oh man.
Aljamain Sterling, Jamaican champion.
Yeah.
Boy, and you see Jamaica in the track and fields in the Olympics. It's time to get busy, dude. Like that's some athletic talent that comes out of there.
100%. I think Jamaica's always on the map somewhere, but for some reason, whether it be music,
Biggie and WWE.
He's Jamaican?
Yeah.
Yep, I saw when I was at a resort, they had like a picture of all famous people with Jamaican family descent, and all athletes, entertainers, and they had this giant picture of him. I'm like, yeah, man.
And you met Usain Bolt, right?
Yes, my son had almost like a Make-A-Wish type thing. His wish was,
sick.
because he's been battling a lot of physical health and cerebral palsy, and his wish, because my son runs on the middle school and high school cross-country teams, he looks at Usain Bolt as the ultimate,
Of course. That's
and we ended
amazing.
up getting a chance to meet him and just...
Wow, I haven't met him myself. He
What an
seemed like
icon!
a lovely guy. What
a guy that like shows you his real heart. And you're like, this is a real dude. It's just a good dude.
That's nice.
Also, another showman.
Yeah. Oh no, 100%. And everyone, just for the 10 seconds that he's running for,
Still found a way.
It's just like everybody wants to see him.
Still found a way.
I mean, he was like so far ahead of people. He could like look over the shoulder.
Yeah.
Like remember when Ben
Unbelievable.
Johnson took all the steroids in '88 and he was like turned around and Carl Lewis was like at the starting block still.
It's crazy.
It's like that with Usain. I got to ask you because when my wife and I argue, she'll be like, "You missed your calling in life. You should have been a gross defense lawyer who doesn't listen to facts and just keeps Do you feel like with your competitiveness and athleticism that if you had picked a different sport or passion that it could have gone the same way?"
So I'll say yeah, because everything that I seem to touch physically, I do well at. I got into basketball when I was younger, but done extremely well. Football, done extremely well. Cricket, done extremely well. I went skiing on a ski trip. That's a ski trip with a school, and the actual coach there was like, "Would you want to train for the Olympics?" I was like, "No." I like skiing, but he was like, "Man, you're really good." And like I pick things when it comes to like just movement, I pick it up really well. So I always kind of excel in these things, but I think it's just martial arts was just because it was just so close to home in my heart, family. It was always something that I'd never switch. So I'd be playing football and I get bored, and I'd be doing this, I get bored, I'd be doing this, I get bored. But always in between all of those things, I'm always doing martial arts. One thing my dad said when I was younger was, so your training and school are the two things you can't negotiate. You have to go. You don't have to compete. You just have to train.
For the discipline?
You just have to train. You never, I get it now, but I never explained at the time. It's just like, and even when he kept saying, remember guys, you don't have to train, you don't have to compete. I was like, why are you telling us? We love competing, but I don't know why he keeps telling us this. But yeah, those are the two things that are non-negotiable. School you have to go to, and training you have to go to. So even when I got in trouble, if I got in trouble doing anything, my mum was would get annoyed, and she's like, "Oh, you're not going training today?" He's like, "No. Let him go training." I get my ass kicked, and I knew. Anytime I'm even questioning making a bad decision, I was like, "I gotta go training this week." Forget it. I'll leave it.
Your mom she got overruled when Dad was like, "It's training time."
No, but just because she trusted him enough with the martial arts side to know that I was gonna get punished anyway. So I'll be sitting there like in horse riding stance for bloody ages, like shaking and quivering. Because we started the actual thing that I started in was Lao Gar Kung Fu. So that's the first thing that we did. But the competitions were kickboxing competitions. So yeah, a lot of our training is like really traditional, old school style training. So yeah, it was pain.
So your dad got to see you become a star.
Yeah.
I mean,
Your dad fought kickboxing?
Yeah.
Wow, man.
Yeah. So
how proud was he? Like that?
Well,
he
most
loved
dads don't do that.
Yeah.
Like when you meet most kids, what does your dad do? Yeah, he's a carpenter.
Yeah.
You know,
No, he fought for years. Became his passion because he was doing electrician BT. I think he was doing the BT phone lines back then, and he just dropped everything. His mum nearly killed him. He's like, yeah, I've dropped everything. He's like, what are you gonna do? He's gonna start teaching kickboxing. Like,
which of your family moved from the islands here?
So both of them. So weirdly enough, my mom moved. So
they
from
grew
Jamaica.
up over there and then moved.
Yeah.
Here.
So they were. My mom was 6, I think, when she came over. I think my dad was a little bit older when he came over. Weirdly enough, there was a something I actually want to talk about with at some point. But there's a weird community back in the day in the UK of Caribbeans that was drawn to Kung Fu films. So there used to be a thing called late night cinema, and after it showed the commercial cinema, like the commercial movies, the Hollywood movies and stuff, it would then show a load of like Kung Fu films. And for some reason, the Caribbean community was just drawn to that. And they'd go late night, watch the film, come out thinking that they could do all the different moves that they've seen, but then they would go and seek out classes, and it became a thing. So when my mum came over, because she didn't know anybody, her older cousin, Stan Brown, who's actually a master Kung Fu artist, she was like, can I just come to class with you? So I guess it's like a social for her. Like, I get to meet people and so on and so forth. And, they would go out to cinema stuff. And that's when she met my dad. My dad was training under Stan Brown. And then obviously she got into it herself. She used to compete and fight. And
Mom too?
Yeah.
Okay, so
everybody.
you start training when you're 3, and your dad's an ex-fighter or maybe a current one at the time. So what head start are you getting over the average kid? You're getting like discipline, toughness, knowledge, at such a young age.
And
so
that's
many
why he
skills.
That's why he said he wanted me to do it. And I think this is why I was so adaptable to go in. When I was used to break dance. Did, like I said, football, everything that I went into, I picked up really quickly. But I think it's because I had the coordination and strength from a young age. I was just adaptable to absolutely anything that was in front of me physically.
So no football coach was able to get you into the soccer pitch, or what?
So weird enough, I had so I started off with, I think it was the QPR youth team. Then it was Fulham.
Queen's Park Rangers?
Yeah. Then it was Fulham youth team.
I'm not cultured.
Then, Fulham youth. Then I played for Epsom Eagles. I did quite a few bits in football. I just didn't push myself enough. Even when I went to, a friend of my mum's, her and her daughter she used to have her daughter doing private tennis lessons. And she was like, there was a couple of days where she could bring a friend if she wanted to. And I was her friend. So she's like, yeah, you can go. I went and smashed all the kids. These guys have been training every single day. I've had no technique. And I'm just like whacking this ball back and then just rushing over to the other side, whacking this ball back and smashing them. And the guy was, one of the coaches there was really interested in me, but my mum didn't have the money for us to continue doing that kind of stuff. I just picked things up pick things up, and it has to 100%. I attribute all of it to the martial arts training I did when I was younger.
By the way, just as sort of a side note, there's I think it's in the Showtime documentary about the Wu-Tang Clan.
Yeah.
You ever seen it?
Yeah.
So they talk about like in the 80s and the 90s, like you hear, if you listen to Enter the 36 Chambers, they have all those samples from the Kung Fu movies and how there was
one of my favorites as well.
Right, and you look at all the like the blaxploitation movies that came out at the same time, all the Kung Fu influences. It's interesting that you said the Caribbean folks here got into it, because if there was something similar happening in New York around the same time.
I can't remember who I was speaking. I think it was Renata I was speaking to, and he was telling me that his dad exactly the same thing. There was
funny
culture of things back then, but he got into karate, not kung fu.
Right.
But still, they just wanted to do some form of martial art, and I think he did taekwondo or something. Yeah.
By the way, as kind of like an acrobatic martial arts guy, do you have a favorite martial arts movie?
It's hard to
And
narrow it down to one.
Why is the answer The Raid?
I love the Raid though.
Come on,
I love
The Raid is amazing.
I love the Raid though, and even Raid 2.
Raid 2 with the hammers. Oh my God!
I've never. So this is especially over here. People don't applaud in cinemas. Everyone tries to be polite.
Yes.
Yeah. I think there was 2 moments in that film where everyone, after the fight scene stopped, everyone was just like, it was so instinctive. No one can help it. It was like, what the hell did I just watch?
I did that at Star Wars Episode 7, not a bit. I was like, no, seriously, because we just needed to get the prequels out of
when
our
they
system.
showed the Millennium Falcon and shit, everyone.
You motherfucker.
But exactly that. So yeah, I find it an epic film, but I love I think I'm just drawn to a lot of the traditional arts. So the 36 Chambers of Shaolin, one of my favorites. Tai Chi Masters with Jet Li is one of my favorites. I think they call it, it's because they have different titles sometimes. I think Tai Chi Masters is also called Twin Warriors. So sometimes they have different titles. Massive Jackie Chan fan. So a lot
Does
of
all
his
his own stunts, man. Amazing.
A lot of his films I was like obsessed with. So him, Jean-Claude Van Damme back in the day as well.
Steven Seagal.
No, I can't. I'm not a fan.
He fucking sucks, dude.
He's
Come
terrible.
on. Yes, the rest of his career,
I
but
was
his
never
prime,
a
man.
Seagal
Come
guy.
on.
Never.
I'm
And
not
I think,
talking about the one where they went to Alaska with the spilled oil. That one was weird. But every other one in the prime run.
You know what annoyed me about Steven Seagal is he could get into a car crash, explosion, like jump out a plane, and his hair was perfect every single time. Not a scratch, no dirt on his body, nothing. But everybody that he was in the scene with was just completely fucked up. I was like, this guy's crap, man. Like,
Judo Gene LaBelle made him shit himself. So that's all you.
I mean,
you know that story?
No.
You don't know that story?
No.
Oh, yeah.
Dude, they were on the set of a movie, and I guess there was some kind of conflict. Dude, Judo Gene LaBelle he's dead now, but like in his day,
Wasn't there an argument and a bet that
Yeah.
that Seagal thought he couldn't be choked out?
Yeah. Or that there was someone on set that couldn't put it on him. Judo Gene LaBelle did it and put his fucking ass to sleep on a movie set with multiple witnesses to it. Like,
no, I believe
sorry,
it.
bro.
I'm sorry. I don't believe him even as a martial artist personally. But that's
Hey,
just
he
my
taught
own
Anderson that front kick
Yeah,
against
even
Vito,
that.
right?
Man, I hate.
Thank him. You know, come on.
I hated all of that. But yeah, he's
now-
made a career out of.
And dude, now he just dresses like Rosie O'Donnell. It's the worst.
And he plays
100%.
guitar kind of like a badass, but like he's just like going nuts on with his band doing solos. And didn't he become a cop for a while? Like he's living.
He's chasing bail jumpers or
So
whatever.
yeah, let's not him.
Yeah, okay.
Unfortunately, but yeah, a lot of the old school films I was raised on and absolutely love. Five Deadly Venoms is one of the reasons why a friend of mine called me Venom as well.
Is that right?
Yeah.
All right, so when Jean-Claude Van Damme walked into the cage and gave who did
Brendan
he-
Ward.
Brendan
Brendan
Ward,
Ward.
and
Oh,
gave
is
him an
it?
awkward hug afterwards. We were like, yeah,
Oh,
get
see, I
that.
didn't see that.
Yeah.
What was that? The last
The
his
last
fight?
Bellator, yeah. It was the first
I
one
only
on the
watched
main
the
card.
clips afterwards.
Yeah.
So I never got to see that. I didn't know he was there. That was cool.
He showed
That's
up.
cool. That's cool.
His hair was looking a little weird.
Yeah, he's older now.
I don't think it's as brown as it looked.
But that movie where he became a hockey goalie, sudden death, that was pretty cool.
That's
Come on.
terrible. MVP, we don't have much time left. So one question I sort of wanted to get to was, your career has kind of been looked at as like, oh, we've got a guy who's got this unusual style. Could this be a new thing that gets picked up more in MMA? And it hasn't really been too much. Robert Whittaker has some elements of the style.
I'm a massive fan of him as well.
Yeah, I mean, but he's got a lot of. He's got his
Of
own
course,
thing. He's
of
just
course,
picked,
of course, yeah.
and maybe that's it, right? Is Robert Whittaker the future in the sense that like no one's going to really have your style? Wonder Boy's got a little bit of it as well.
Wonder Boy.
But I think people might take things from it. Like, how is the style of striking you come from? Will you see more influence of it? Just will it be very style dependent? How do you see the future of it?
So I actually posted a clip, weird enough, with KSI's last
I
knockout.
saw that on Instagram. Yep.
Yeah. And again, it is just it was nice because even the responses and what people were saying, but it's nice to a reminder of what I have brought to the table. Whether everybody takes it or not is one thing. There's a lot of young kids that I know come from my sport as well that are now training in our gym. So I know eventually it will, it will creep back
Trickle
up
out a little
again.
more,
yeah.
yeah.
And you see it even like Norbert Naveni, a lot of his styles now is bouncing. And a lot of the guys in my gym, they're moving how, where I come from. I've actually brought some guys from the points world into shoot fighters, and they're sparring with some of the guys. And I did not expect them to move like how we moved. I thought that was going to be our advantage, be able to, they'll struggle to kind of find us. But I think I've brought something to the table, at least over here anyway, that I know it will continue, and certain people will pick up certain
a new template
attributes.
in a way. I mean, not everybody can do it. You
No,
know,
100%. But it's even at a basic level, it's effective.
Yeah.
It's effective. People struggle to understand the bounce and the rhythm of it. So even if you take away all the flashiness and it's just a basic bounce, people are landing some shots. I'm seeing a few people.
What
doing
influence? I have a feeling there had to have been Prince Nassim Hamed. Now, what influence did that have at all on anything?
Weird enough, I didn't watch boxing for a long time. So it's only when he was on his way out, I think just before his last fight, that I started watching a lot of his stuff. Before Muhammad Ali, it's only because my family was massively into Ali, so I watched the boxing, and then I got into Pernell Whitaker as well.
Sure.
So Sweet Pea was my guy.
Whitaker's a beast.
Oh man, I love watching his
Fluid
stuff.
movement. I mean, just
yeah,
in and out,
it's
just
so
beautiful.
fucking smooth.
So I draw inspiration from everything, but it's not always martial arts based.
Right.
People have seen me act like I'm playing basketball while I'm fighting, and I love the movement of basketball. I've slipped punches pretending that I'm crossing over someone, slip punches and come back. So I just draw inspiration from absolutely anything, and I just try to be as creative as possible.
But you're kind of like a rock star in the cage, meaning you know what I mean. Like you're doing two things at once. You're actively carrying out a game plan and winning fights, and you're not unapologetically flashy and entertaining. You've probably received criticism at times for that, but to balance that out at the highest level and be who you are underneath and also have massive success, it's like that's the model, man.
No, thank you. And I don't think I wouldn't. In fact, I would never have been able to do it any other way. If I had to try to just be or learn how a traditional MMA fighter would be, I'd lose I would have lost a lot of fights, and nobody would know who MVP even is. So there was only one way I was going to do it. If it wasn't successful, it wasn't successful. But I had to do it my way.
Well, you've done a lot of it your way. It's gone for the most part pretty damn well.
Definitely,
so congratulations on
Thank you.
everything. Thanks for making the trip across London to come see us.
March 10th,
Oh,
you can see MVP.
Bellator 292.
Yeah.
Live on
Goiti
Showtime.
Yamauchi. That is a hell of a fight.
It's a great fight.
Cannot wait.
Great fight.
Enjoy
Looking
that
forward
trip to
it.
California.
Oh yeah,
That's a long one.
I'm gonna be out sleeping.
There he is. Michael Venom Page.